Sorry, repeat that for the many followers. I started recording, by the way.
Pepsi wants you to drink soda mixed with milk this holiday season. Is that not the most outrageous thing that was said today, December 1st, 2022?
Oh, we're starting here, huh?
We're starting there, dude.
Oh,
What a day.
what a day,
What
dude.
a
So today is
day.
December 1st.
Yes.
Um,
I'm even more vindicated. We've talked about this on this podcast before, right?
go on.
About how I had gotten into arguments with my students about who was better, Kanye or Jay-Z.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're like, Kanye. And I'm like, you all are not intelligent, which is my problem as their educator.
Oh, yeah.
But now
You're gonna show
who's
up.
laughing?
Did you guys talk about this today?
No.
So tomorrow you're gonna walk in and be like, well, well,
They're
well.
not gonna remember. They're not gonna remember.
Oh, you can play tapes.
I can play tapes because I clearly have the tapes.
Hey, have the tapes.
I have the tapes.
You need to have the tapes.
You gotta have the tape.
But anyway, so we are here today to talk about
A fine film.
a very good movie.
Yes.
So we are talking about The Menu.
The Menu.
The Menu, which is a movie that I hadn't heard a lot about, like prior to like watching the first trailer.
I had heard nothing until the first trailer.
Which is, it's always nice. I feel like I'm one of the people that likes to stay up to date with
Yeah.
like favorite actors and actresses.
You're in the trends.
I'm in the trends. And I am a huge like simp for Anya Taylor-Joy.
You are indeed.
And the fact that I hadn't heard about this, I was like, oh,
So you're not the biggest simp, is what you're
apparently I'm not. And you know what? I
Yeah.
think I'll take that as a win.
Fair enough.
But it's not only a good like story overall,
Mhm.
it's also a very like good thriller in like how it's set up.
Yes.
It has great characters, hilarious.
Very funny. Lots of laughs. I'll probably talk about this later. Reminds me of many, many films.
Oh yes,
And the thing that I like about this movie is it's not, how shall I say? It's not like a crown jewel in the sense that you watch this movie. For me, anyway, I didn't watch this movie and I was like, oh man, this is the first time I've seen this. Like, what an original, iconic,
Oh, I see.
setting piece.
Uh-huh.
I didn't feel that,
Good.
but it was able to still seem like familiar, tame-ish, and still be thoroughly fun, like a cheeseburger.
Like
Like a cheeseburger. Yeah.
So here's the thing. So to the comparison to a cheeseburger, right? Like you can go to a lot of restaurants and you can have a lot of different burgers.
Yeah.
And a lot of them can be okay and be
Yeah.
good enough.
Yes.
But man, when you get like
That perfect burger.
perfect burger.
We are Him Yam season 4.
Yes. Like for me, man, if I could have a burger like the one at Poppy's Place or the one at Rockwood Tap House,
Mhm.
like that's the burger that I'm searching for.
That's
and
the
I
burger.
feel like this movie is a lot like that.
Yes.
Where like, yes, like we've talked about other movies this year, it's not the most original
No.
because there are a lot of movies like this where you have like a culty type of situation. You have a quirky young, girl who is, maybe more complex than she seems at first, and you have like a big ensemble cast.
You have, I think in the next movie that we're going to review, / maybe The Black Phone, or 2 times this year where I was like, wow. Right? I left that movie thinking, wow, I've seen something different, amazing, right? And in this, I did not say wow, but I was like,
That right? Is that more or less pretentious than saying wow?
It's funny. I've found it. I've been very interested in recording this one because I think it's very hard to talk about this movie because it's a movie that is anti-pretentiousness at its core, right?
Yes.
And if you blow up too much air up its ass,
then
when you become this thing you swore to destroy.
Yeah, and honestly, this movie made its own like criticism hard on itself. Yeah. Like, because this movie deals a lot with like the pretentiousness of like food critics,
right?
Like
But it's not just about food. I
It's
mean,
not.
yeah,
It's not.
the plot is about
But
food.
like it's about the criticism,
Right.
right? Like a big part of a big point of the movie does revolve around like a foodie,
Yeah.
who's like so into food, and then you have the food reviewer
Yeah.
working for the magazine, right?
Yeah.
And when you start a movie like this and you're shitting on the idea of the criticism and how people live for like the review as opposed to like living for like the enjoyment of the thing,
Right.
you better have a good fucking movie in your hands.
You better.
Because if you don't,
right,
you're gonna get shit on so
they will
hard.
tear you to pieces.
And I think that's what makes this movie like work so well. If you fuck up,
Right.
you
Right.
you're just setting yourself up so bad. But I had a lot of fun.
There was a scene where I had belly laughs in this film.
So the funny thing is, this whole year I was like, I need a good comedy. And I feel like the first half of the year was like very lacking in like haha, right? I can't think of any movie that we reviewed earlier this year.
Ironic, because if you would ask so many people, they would say there's too much ha-has in film these days.
Yes.
Yes.
But they would be wrong.
They would be wrong.
But I feel like the last half of the last 2 months of this year,
right,
November and December, like we had Weird.
Yeah.
That was really, really funny.
It was a brand of funny.
And it was, yeah, but it was designed to be funny, right?
Exactly.
We have Glass Onion, which we will talk about soon too.
Also many ha-has.
Many, many ha-has to people's detriment, apparently. And then this movie. And the thing is, I was not expecting this movie to be as funny as it was.
Neither was I.
I think the trailer does tell you like it is going to be funny.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it seem like that's the sole purpose of it.
There was. So people asked me when I saw this movie, they were like, was it what you expected? And I said, by and large, yes. I mean, I didn't expect so many ha-has. I expected some. But I expected, I've never seen The Hunt. But when I saw the movie, I'm like, okay, this kind of seems like The Hunt. Like there's some sort of class commentary going down, and some sort of people are going to get punished. Right? Now, I don't know if people had other expectations for gore or horror. That's to me what the discourse seemed, and I never thought it was going to go too hard into that direction, nor did I need it to go too hard. And honestly, I don't think Ray Fiennes would do that kind of movie, to be honest with you. I don't think he would do a total gore fest.
No, but at the same time, when he did,
you better not say Schindler's List.
No, when he did The Kingsman, like it's still like a sillier movie.
Silly, yes, silly.
So like I could see him veering into like newer things.
Correct.
I'm not super well versed in his filmography. Like I remember watching like Harry Potter and being like, oh, it's Voldemort.
Right.
And then when someone goes like, hey, have you seen like Ray Fiennes in this movie? And I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's the same guy. Like I would not have put two and two together.
And I'm not too well versed in his work either. Like I mean, I first saw him in Harry Potter, but even from the little that I see, he just seems like that classic turn of the century, pre-turn of the century British actor.
Yeah.
Who just probably wouldn't touch a gore fest.
Yeah. Let's have the listeners listen to my LaCroix opening. LaCroix.
Shall I read the synopsis?
Yeah, go ahead. It's actually a pretty nice, short and sweet one.
Maybe the LaCroix should always be our cue for a synopsis. A young couple travels to a remote island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises.
Yeah. So I think without going into spoilers, I think it's fair to get this out of the way. No, the movie is not about like eating people.
No, is that what people really expected?
I don't know if that's what people expected. It's what I've seen some people say online.
Yeah.
Or that like they're going to be like torturing like the people who are eating.
Right.
Which is still, it's not what's happening in the movie.
Correct.
So I think we can say that without it being a spoiler.
And yet, really, just to make a quick comment, I can't see anybody expecting that, seeing what we got, and them being disappointed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not the it's a good enough movie that it doesn't need
Right.
like the extremism, right? You have movies like we had Barbarian, which like
Yeah.
was like a shocking like
That's on my list of
it's on your
things
list.
that this
I do
reminded me
see
of.
it
Yeah.
here, yeah. Like it where a lot of like the fun of the movie comes from like look how insane this is, look how weird.
Right.
This doesn't need that.
Correct.
It stands on its own and like the story itself lends itself for like
Yeah.
to still be entertaining and engaging enough.
Yeah. And also, unlike that upcoming Timothy Chalamet movie with the cannibals.
Upcoming, boy, it already came out.
That shit came out.
That shit came out.
I ain't seeing that shit.
Bones and all.
Bones and all. More like bones and not my money.
Yeah, I think it came out the same day as the menu.
Did it really?
I think so.
The inferior film.
The inferior, for
Yeah.
sure. What were your thoughts on like our main cast? Let's talk about the main cast here.
So we've got Anya Taylor-Joy, obviously, Ray Fiennes. The boyfriend is played by Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah. Hong Chao is an assistant to John Leguizamo. Janet McTeer is a food critic, correct?
Yes.
I don't remember who Paul Adelstein plays.
Paul, the lady who is the food critic. That's her. Like he's the newspaper rep.
Yes, with her. Her beau, her dinner date.
Yes.
Reed Blimey, who I know from House of Cards, and then he's in Mass. Judith Light, was that his wife in this movie?
She's the older lady.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, not a lot of names that I knew, minus the top two, John Leguizamo and then Reed Blimey. But I think they all did a really good job of playing their own kind of asshole.
Yes. Yeah. And there are some assholes in this movie.
There are some assholes.
You see it and you go, oh, absolutely. Like all of these people
yes
deserve to go.
Well, if you are taking a boat to this to this fine dining experience.
And I think that's a good setup, right? So even from the trailer, we see that Anya Taylor-Joy does not feel like she fits in here. She has no idea what they're doing.
Correct.
She questions like, hey, it's only 12 people going to dinner. Like, how do you make money? And the guy goes, oh, these are like $12.50 a plate. Yeah. And you go, holy shit. Mm. And even she goes, holy shit. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, why would you spend so much on dinner? Right. And so, from the beginning, you are made aware that she's not with this crowd.
She's not with this crowd.
Sets her apart.
The film makes it seem like the film and the marketing make it seem like she and who you think is her boyfriend are tight at the beginning. And then there were certain points at the beginning where I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Like, wouldn't they have known each other longer than it's letting on? And then later on, you learn
when the beat drops, right? Exactly
what's actually happening. So I credit the film to sort of hiding that dynamic.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I kind of really beat myself up on, I really wanted to watch this movie again before we got a chance to talk about it.
Same.
But I mean, then that was Thanksgiving, and that was a whole bunch of crazy.
We're working men.
And so I didn't get a chance to go see it because I know Katie wanted to go see it. So we'll probably go see it sometime soon that we get a chance. Yeah. But I want to see it before, just to see how well her dynamic fits into the movie, knowing where she comes from at the end. Yeah. And also knowing the end game that the chef has for
the guests.
Like, something's going on. He's got a reasoning for doing what he wants to do. And, you don't really know for a good maybe 40 minutes, 30 minutes of the movie.
So can we tell our millions of fans who she is?
So I think let's go ahead and do spoilers now.
Fuck your spoiler warning.
But before go see it, it's really, really good. Yes. It's so good. I think everyone that I personally know that has seen it has liked this movie a lot.
I haven't seen anybody who's disliked this movie. I'm excited.
Reviewers.
I'm excited to purchase it. when it is purchasable.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into spoilers. So
she's a hooker.
She's a hooker.
An escort. An escort. She's a higher end. Yes.
Yeah. So she works for like really rich people.
Yeah.
She's not like your, you know, 7-Eleven.
And she's paid to be a date, right? That's what an escort is. And a higher end prostitute is also.
Yeah.
They do date services as well.
So she's not like in the corner, you go and you bang, because it seems like, at least from the other people that we know, sex isn't the purpose, right?
Other people that we know.
Well, because we know, no, in the movie, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
In the movie, yeah. We know that the old guy Richard hires her.
Correct. He had another date.
He had another date with her. I think at a different place.
Well, he had another. What I mean, seeing he had another date is he had another woman who was supposed to come with him.
No. Talking about Richard. The old man.
Oh, yes.
The old rich man.
Yes.
He hired her because she keeps looking at him.
Correct.
And his wife is like, why does this young girl keep looking at us?
Yeah.
And I think you kind of are going like, oh, something's up with these two.
Exactly. Which seems weird because like they're like it's not hinted that anybody would know each other here.
Exactly. Everybody seems to be like their own pods, right?
It's not hinted that she has any sort of mysterious backstory whatsoever.
Yeah, she does look at him and go, oh, and you're like, oh, maybe.
But why would she
together?
know? Yeah,
at first, I was like, is that like, are they like estranged family members?
Like, why would she know him of all the people here?
Exactly.
Why not John Leguizamo?
Yeah, and at first I didn't even pin it as she knew him.
Right.
I thought she knew them, the couple. And then the old lady was so out of touch that she just didn't remember her. And that's what I felt was like, something's going on here.
Because all the side characters get about the same amount of story time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is really good too, that all of these people who are here to get their comeuppance, you feel like you know enough to be like, yes, they deserve.
Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them all, right?
Fuck them.
Maybe the only one is Felicity, who's the assistant.
And that's kind of what actually I enjoyed. I enjoyed the degree to which this movie villainized Ralph Fiennes, because Felicity, she has a few little shitty moments.
Yeah, so
but she's under the thumb of John Leguizamo.
She's under the thumb of John Leguizamo, so she's kind of, it's got to be shitty,
right?
But she also she's being like bossed around by him, but she is stealing from him, so she's also shitty.
Yes, but not that shitty.
Not that shitty.
Not that shitty. But in a movie, in a movie like Knives Out,
yes,
they're all shitty.
Oh, 100%.
They're all shitty, and that's enjoyable in that movie. But I think this movie puts that extra little twist on it that makes it interesting, in that they're all shitty. She is to a lesser degree, but our villain's like, nah, you die anyway.
Nah, you're still fucked. Right? I don't care.
Which still sets him as a degree of worse than all these other people. Because he's pretentious and he's an asshole.
To the same level almost. Like he is not above them.
I think he's below them.
I don't think he's as bad as them.
Well, I think he's worse.
You think so?
I think he's worse. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we had our prostitute talk earlier. We'll come back to that, I'm sure. But he first of all, it's already confirmed that he was some sort of manipulative, abusive to his sous chef.
Yeah. Right? What's her name? Catherine.
Yes. He is just as pretentious as all these other people are, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is overworked. I can see how he feels victimized.
Yes.
But I think if he were born in another profession, he would be exactly the same.
Oh, you think so?
I don't think he's any better.
Oh, I see. I think the way I read his character was he really enjoyed being a chef.
Yes.
And then the environment that he was put on, like him being put on the spotlight, him being, having his ego built by people like, what's her fucking name? Lillian.
Right.
And, people like Ted, the magazine guy.
Mm-hmm.
And all these other people buying his expensive, because he says, these people wanted this to be exclusive, so we had to build our prices up.
Yeah.
It's almost like he is the bad guy. He's the main villain, quote
Right.
unquote, but it's because these people essentially built him up to be that.
So now so here's where this dovetails into my point about Anya Taylor-Joy
Sure.
and Margot as the escort. When you typically see movies like this where the lambs for the slaughter enter into Dracula's lair,
Sure.
right? The Dracula is always like cool, calm, and in control, right? As soon as he realizes that there's someone here who's not supposed to be here, he loses that control. And on the one hand, that makes him more sympathetic.
Sure. English teacher.
Yeah, sympathetic because he's able to designate the fact that Margot did not deserve to die, but she's going to have to because everybody here is dying tonight, right?
It's a plan.
But that to me was the window into his pretentiousness because he also sees this as art. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
and there is something about it, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of want to cheer for him because he is fucking up all these people that you want.
Right.
But then he's still an asshole.
He's still an asshole.
And the way he's going about it is like hella asshole.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, you want to cheer for Anya Taylor-Joy.
What I do?
And sometimes he's like, man, but he does have a point. And it's not until like you start to put the pieces together of why exactly she's there, right? So she's supposed to be Tyler, right? Tyler's date,
right?
And he's like, he gets broken up.
Yeah, Tyler's if you thought you were the biggest Anya Taylor-Joy simp,
oh yeah,
then Tyler is the biggest.
He's the biggest food
Chef Slovak simp.
And so yeah, like when that shoe drops, where you find out that not only is she an escort,
right,
she has been brought here willingly by this man, willingly knowing that everybody's supposed to die.
Yeah. He would know that he was going to die too, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that is revealed later. Sure. That everybody, he had been talking to the chef.
Oh, now I remember. He couldn't get dates, right? It's kind of revealed that he's.
No, he had a girlfriend
who
that they were going to bring in. I think her name was like Melissa or something.
Dumped him.
She dumped him, and then it was like a week before the reservation was coming. So he needed to find someone fast, and that's why he hired her.
And I can't remember if the film. Oh, see, I'm the villain. I can't remember if the movie full on paints him as an incel.
I think he just paints him like a almost like a pretentious wannabe.
If you put these pieces together and no other pieces, first of all, so confirm the previous girlfriend was supposed to die, right?
Yes.
She was supposed to come with him
by association, right? Knowing him, it's almost implied that like they've known each other for long, so maybe she was just as pretentious as he was.
So he was going to lead her to her death. Mm-hmm. So with that, and then the fact that he's just so pathetically into this, and that to get someone to come with him, and to feel that he needed someone to come with him and not just come alone.
Oh, he needed to.
He needed to bring a guest.
Yeah. The chef tells him like, you knew you weren't. We didn't do like single person reservations.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe he's not an incel, but still cool how he was much more unhinged than I thought he was going to be.
And the funny thing about Tyler's character is that for a second there, when we find out that Margot is actually Erin and she's an escort, I was like, oh, are they going to try to make us feel for Tyler, who, as you're finding out that he knew what was happening, like the gears start turning, and I'm like, oh, did he maybe dump the girlfriend?
Yeah.
Because he got cold feet and said, well, they won't let me in. I'll bring this other girl instead to get killed.
Right.
But I like that they stuck to he sucks and he got dumped.
Because during the movie, another point that I was questioning, while bizarre shit is happening, he's just like stupidly into it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and at first I was setting the movie back just a little bit for me. And I was like, why is he this dumb?
Yeah, because you kept on, I mean, like, is he stupid?
Right.
Like,
I mean, clearly yes, but also like beyond acceptable stupid. And then once it reveals that
that
he
he
knows,
knew.
yeah, then you're like, oh,
It just makes perfect sense.
yeah,
And I think a lot of the characters also go like, they kind of like give him looks like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, this guy just shot himself
yeah.
and you're still like
And you're still eating
eating.
your stupid foamy food. Yeah.
So, which, speaking of the food, so we're all over the place. Let's talk about the food in this.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like, I've had some nasty, like, pretend uppity food,
You have. I've had
and
some good uppity food.
yeah, but what I mean is like food that you go, ah, this is supposed to be classy, and
Right.
I'm
And then
like,
it's,
ah, I mean, it's not good, but it's the intent that
yeah.
someone paid good money for this.
Right.
But in this movie, you're paying $12.50, and they give you a slab
Exactly.
with sauces and no bread,
Yeah.
right? Rocks with like little tiny pieces of plant
Mhm.
and maybe some like shellfish,
Right.
right?
Right.
Uh, and he's just like, hell yeah. I think out of everybody, he's the first one to like start digging in.
Yes.
And I like that all the food is introduced like if it was like Iron Chef.
He breaks protocol, I think, at some point. I think he gets yelled at by the assistant.
I think so. Well, because he's taking pictures of
Right.
the food
Right.
and he's not supposed to.
Right.
Which also, like, if you know you're gonna die,
Why are you taking
like,
pictures?
why are you taking pictures? Like, you're not gonna post this shit.
Maybe he's also the kid who dreams about saving the school from the school shooter. But in this case, not saving the school, but maybe he thought he could impress Chef so much.
That he would let him live, you think?
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
But I do like that the titles and the little subtitles to the foods start to get more unhinged as the story goes on.
Yeah. Yeah.
They talk about the sauces without or the bread appetizer without bread,
Without
right?
bread,
It's just
right.
all sauces. It tells you about the first. Do we have a list of those, by the way?
Foods?
The menu, movie,
The menu's menu.
foods. How they made this a real. I don't think there's a specific list, but
Some say.
anyway, um, it was nice to see, like, for example, like when they have Jeremy's mess or whatever it's called, or the hot mess, where it's like at the bottom and it tells you what like the food is going to be, and it goes R.I.P. Jeremy or whatever. it made everybody in the theater laugh.
And that's my favorite scene. That whole sequence is hilarious.
When you're just waiting for the shoe to drop.
When you're waiting for the shoe to drop, and when
and either he's going to, because he has a pair of scissors.
Yes.
In his in like his apron, and you go, man, is this guy gonna like
check off scissors,
right, stab himself in the neck or something, or anything, and
that's not what happens.
It's not what happens, but you know that something is gonna happen, and you're like, is he gonna do it himself?
And they humor him.
Is the chef going to?
And they humor him the whole time, and he's got to know they're humoring him.
Who? Jeremy?
Jeremy, right there following him, and he's like, lamb. And they're like, oh, yes, lamb. Very good. And then he makes a stupid ass cookie.
Oh, no. That's the other one.
Oh, you're talking about the chef who kills himself.
The chef who kills himself, right?
Rewind.
So that's
right.
Jeremy, yeah.
Yeah.
So something's gonna happen, and that's because that's the pivot point.
That's the first death.
That's the first death. That's what starts to set everything into motion.
Right.
And that's where we get the first subtitle change, where he's like, "Oh shit!" Like, this is planned, because at the end, I think it even says on the list that she uses as a napkin at the end of the movie. But yeah, so that's the first time, and then yes, we do have another one where we have Tyler's bullshit,
right?
Which was also apparently not supposed to be on the menu.
No,
because that's where everything kind of gets derailed, because he lets out that he knows
what's
going on. Yes, you are right. they're humoring him. He's like, "What do you want to cook? I need butter and scallions." And he's like, "Does," and I like his line. He's like, "Oh, that is a technique. That is quite the technique."
Yeah, I never heard this.
The fucking like lamb chops are raw.
Raw.
I was half expecting a lesser movie
Yeah,
would have had Chef go, "It's fucking raw."
but it's but the fact that he just cannot cook and he's
It's so good.
so into this and like he's like every Reddit boy
Yeah.
who's
This is the guy who says, um, let's remake The Last Jedi, or let's remake Halloween Ends."
Mhm.
But if you tell him, well, how would you do it?
Yeah.
They go, well, I don't know. I don't get paid for that.
Well, I mean, it's the like the bricks and screws guys. So for our millions of fans,
Oh,
there's some humor in Star Wars land where I think he might be the biggest Star Wars YouTuber.
is he really?
He might be.
Oh
He
man,
might
that's
be.
kind of depressing.
He does a lot of theory videos, hence his choice, hence his name. But he's also uppity on like a lot of the against a lot of the Disney content.
Mhm.
And he was reviewing Andor, and he was like, the rating's great, the acting's great,
The cinematography is
cinematography's
great.
great. But you know what? Bricks and screws just don't belong in Star Wars. Like I have to draw the line. And like,
What the fuck does that even? So I saw that and I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
and here's the thing. So this guy does like he'll do alternate versions of movies,
Uh,
and they're just so bad.
are they?
They're bad.
Is he one of those like the people who do like fan fiction?
He does a lot of fan fiction.
Oh
He does a
no.
lot of alternate takes, and actually, some of them are interesting. Like you can go down the rabbit hole.
Uh-huh.
But there's this epidemic of people who, even for like the Game of Thrones finale, like I had seen some people be like, "Here's my version of Game of Thrones season 8,"
Uh-huh.
right? Which we can all universally agree is awful.
Yeah.
And then you listen to their version, you're like, "Oh, that was awful too," right? It's the fact of the matter is that making art is hard.
Yeah.
Like, and I know this kind of sounds pretentious, but I mean, even now I'm really down a rabbit hole. But even books, there was a book that I read pre-pandemic when I was trying to get back into reading. I was doing audiobooks. I checked it out from Libby, and it was on the library's best whatever list.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the title. I don't remember the author. Some girl, she does makeup. There's some sort of thriller love triangle between a therapist and his wife who's doing an experiment with her.
Hmm.
It never gets into like peak danger, though the book makes you feel like it's in danger. For the life of me, I cannot remember what it's called. But not a good book.
Mhm.
And like bestseller, winning awards. And that's just when it hit me. I'm like, you know what? It's not that this author is bad, though they might have been. It's more the fact that just like writing a book is hard.
Yeah.
Like, and getting it published and getting an audience, right? It's not easy to be a creator.
No, it's
And it's easier to be a critic. But like the critic will rip you a new one.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard out there.
Yeah.
Which I think it's also like it's like for example, like someone like Tyler in the movie, right? He's a foodie.
Right.
He, I'm assuming, probably has a following of sorts in
Oh,
his own way.
yeah.
Because he presents himself as someone who knows a lot about food.
He presents himself.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that what I said?
But he's someone who knows a lot about food.
He presents himself, right?
Oh, yeah, that's what you said. Yeah, but I'm saying presents himself
Yeah.
in terms of
Clearly he doesn't.
right.
And I feel like that is very topical with like today's rise of social media and sites like TikTok,
Yes.
right? Where you have a lot of people who present themselves like they know a lot about things.
Armchair experts.
Armchair experts.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a good topic to like hit on in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a good job. So before we move on to more stuff, anything else? Any specific character that you think stands out besides what we already discussed?
We didn't talk too much about Elsa, or not.
Because Elsa's the
Yeah,
assistant,
like,
his like sous chef.
exactly. And she buys into the cult.
Oh, all of these people
Yeah,
buy into the cult.
yeah, but she
Uh,
buys into the cult the most.
yes, to a point where I did think it was interesting that Chef does seem to have a soft spot for Margot, and Elsa takes that shit super
Personally,
personally.
right?
She confronts her and goes, "He's trying to replace me with you. He's not
Yeah,
going to replace me." And that's when they get into a big fight, which results in a kill,
solid kill.
solid kill. Probably the most, besides obviously the popping yourself with a gun,
Right.
probably the most violent one. Um, the characters that I think I hated the most in this movie were the tech bros.
Yeah, and they're all kind
The
of just one conglomerate of character.
Yeah, so it's three guys together,
Yeah, three dude bros.
three hella dude bros. One of them is Soren, Dave, and Bryce,
You gave
which
them the dignity of their names.
just
Head ass.
just that name,
Yeah,
holy shit,
Bryce.
what a name!
What a name,
By the way, is Arturo?
Arturo.
Do I know him from somewhere? He reminds me of someone, and it's really bugging me. Like he has a
Uh,
very like peculiar face.
yeah, I don't know.
Um, but anyway, they all together like they scam money out of people, and they're so up in your face about like
My
them
father will hear about this.
basically,
Right, but it's their
right?
boss.
It's the boss
Yeah, who
who
owns the restaurant?
exactly.
Mhm.
And I love the fact that the boss gets drowned,
Yeah.
and they're like, "You can't do this. We we helped you through the pandemic. We kept you open during COVID." I think that's literally the line.
Yeah.
We kept you open during COVID, which I'm like, oh,
It's
uh,
finally it's about time we start seeing it in the universe.
it's long enough. It's been long enough that people can be in a scene without a mask, but still reference the fact that at some point in the past,
So as a side note, a contradiction within myself, I subscribe to English Journal, which is the high school English teacher academic journal, right?
yeah,
And they, for like the past 2 years, it's just been fucking articles of like, I remember March of 2020. Yes, desks empty, it's little squares and trying to learn. And the issue that just came out like this week was the first one in ages that didn't have a fucking goddamn COVID article.
hmm
And I was so happy. And at the same time, I've seen 2 movies in the past week that reference COVID. I'm like, oh, finally. So I want some COVID in my film. I don't want COVID in my professional development. But anyway,
yeah,
an aside.
in the
That
side.
was an aside. That was an aside. Yeah.
So you let's just go ahead and kind of skip towards the end of the movie.
Yes.
She gets off after going through everything.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone dies preemptively except for Tyler.
Correct.
Right after they ridicule him for his awful cooking skills,
Correct.
the chef whispers something to him.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
And
it's some.
he does what Kanye West should do.
Oh,
You heard it here first.
should I cut that out? I don't know.
I don't know. Is it illegal?
But I don't know exactly what the chef tells him. I'm assuming something along the lines of like, "You're a fucking poser.
Yeah.
Like, I hope you die or some shit."
Yeah. Or like go
And
die.
or go die,
Yeah.
and he fucking does
He
it.
does it.
He hangs
Yeah.
himself
In
in the
the
closet,
bathroom. Yeah.
right? Maybe like a meat storage,
Right. A
whatever.
closet. Absolutely.
But he hangs himself. Oh man, hold on. Before that, I love they give him the chef
Apron.
shirt,
He
and he's
writes
like,
his
"Let
name.
me personalize this," and he writes the shittiest handwriting.
Yeah.
Tyler, it's so fucking perfect.
And Tyler's such a little boy's name.
Oh yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. It fits.
it fits.
It
It
fits.
fits.
Yeah.
Um, and so then you know, Margot figures out that Chef did at some point love being a chef. That's what
Mhm.
he's lacking. He's jaded. He's kind of rotted from the inside.
But he was a greasy spoon chef.
He was a greasy spoon chef.
Mhm.
He was a typical old SpongeBob.
Fry cook. Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
And she asks him to make her a cheeseburger. She says, "Hey, listen, we've been eating your fucking like heartless food.
Yeah.
I'm hungry."
And she comes at him with some Gordon Ramsay energy.
She does.
Yeah.
She is telling him like, "You are a bad chef because I
Right.
I'm hungry and your food has no love."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, what the fuck do you want me to make you then?"
Cheeseburger.
And she wants a cheeseburger, which
Yeah.
is what she saw him in a picture like
Making.
and he had his like I think it was like his first employee of the month
Yeah, word.
placard.
Right.
And you see like a smile on his
He
face.
puts some
And
heart into that
and it
cheeseburger.
is the first genuine smile that he gives.
Yeah.
And to that point where I was like, God, man,
Yeah.
like I hate this guy, but fuck, like I
And
feel bad for him.
like this film, the cheeseburger was made with love.
Exactly, and it looks so fucking good.
It looks delicious.
It's a smash burger, with like a heavily sesame seed bun.
And the best is she has the audacity to take it to go. Perfect.
Ah, so good. She
Perfect.
takes a bite and she goes, "I think my eyes were bigger than my stomach," which people joke that her eyes are huge, and I'm like, "Oh, that had to be funny for her to say."
Yeah,
But yeah, that is her out.
that's her out.
And she feels bad. And I think that's also what makes us know that she is not just out for herself. She would like to help these people, as shitty as they are.
Yeah.
She looks back, and even the is her name Anne, the rich lady.
Yeah.
She's like, "No, you go,
Yeah.
like save yourself." She like gestures, telling her like,
It's over.
that it's over. Like
Right.
we had it coming.
We got our comeuppance.
You don't. You need to leave.
Mm.
And she does, and then we are left with the dessert.
Yes.
What is the dessert?
S'mores.
I wish I could find his description of the s'mores.
Ooh.
It's so good. I gotta look it up really quick. The menu.
You talked about how it's like a shitty. He shat on s'mores.
Oh, he shits on them, but
He does
it's
shit on s'mores.
so good the way he.
While you look it up, did you think that Margot had a tremendous arc in this movie?
How so?
So at that when I was leaving the theater, that was maybe my one main critique, where I was like, she was a likable character, other than just kind of being dragged through it and coming out the other end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that she has a lot of internal conflict that she has to overcome. I think she just kind of has to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as a result, I don't know that she changes that much, but she was still enjoyable.
Yeah,
Like a cheeseburger.
like a cheeseburger.
Like a cheeseburger.
You go back to that cheeseburger.
It's the prime metaphor of the film.
It is.
Yeah.
Um,
Things don't have to be super fancy. They can just be made with love.
yeah, no, that's fair, and that's fair. And I think I've had really cheap food that I enjoy more than really expensive food.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, because you don't get to, not just you, but first of all, expensive food is just by definition less accessible. I mean, I just had fucking $20 ramen for dinner, right? So I can't call that cheap.
Fair.
But the fact of the matter is, like some simple joys really just are better than the not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, it's not always gonna be good when you get something that's made with love.
Although here, so this is okay. So this is interesting.
Sure.
So Andor just ended, right?
Yes.
Which you haven't seen yet.
I still haven't, but
I do recommend it. It is.
Oh, I will. I have to finish it now. I was issued a challenge at work.
So challenge.
Yeah, I'll explain later.
So a lot of the praise for this show is that it's well written TV
Mm-hmm.
that happens to also be Star Wars IP,
Mm-hmm.
right? Dan Murrell, another film critic.
Yeah, you have a quote from him,
I have
right?
a quote. So he's talking about comparing Andor to other previous Star Wars media. So everything from the Mandalorian to like
Book of Boba Fett,
Obi-Wan, right? That whole range of quality.
God damn.
Right. So he was like, it was kind of like being served takeout for week after week, shows, year after year, and then you finally get served a finely cooked meal, and you realize, oh yeah, the takeout was pretty good, but this is great, right? And I think it's interesting because we do, especially since like the golden age of HBO, Showtime, AMC drama. I feel like when it comes to TV and maybe movies, I think our generation has developed like a finer palate.
A
Like,
finer palette.
I will not watch ER.
I mean, you're not wrong. You have to
Yeah,
think about like we have had the rise of like premiere TV shows.
yeah,
You know, the Breaking Bads, the Better Call Sauls,
right,
the Game of Thrones
right.
to a certain extent,
To a certain extent,
the
which,
Walking Dead to a certain extent.
which is kind of against the spirit of this film. If the film is anti-elitism and anti-pretension,
Sure,
but
but I also feel like that's a little different. Where like this is something that's out of reach for like the everyman.
yeah,
Things like your Westworlds, your Game of Thrones, like they have become so accessible to everyone.
mm,
Like the fact that like my 65-year-old coworker talks to me about Game of Thrones,
yeah,
like just shows that like it's out there,
yeah.
right? It may not always be fantastic.
So even though it's a level above smut, there's it's still, like you said, accessible.
It's accessible,
Yeah.
but some of it can be very good, right? Like shows like The Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
right? You know, this is like
Or even
what
WandaVision, right? Which if you listen to the Tarantinos and the
and the
Scorseses of the
Scorsese's,
world, right? That's your takeout. And
yeah,
and maybe there is
something to be said about that.
maybe there is something to be said about that. But at the end of the day, Oscar season's coming up. Like,
I have zero interest in like 90% of the Oscar bait.
I feel the past few years of Best Picture noms have just been
Meh.
meh and snooze fests.
Oh, 100%.
And also just not even attractive in their premise,
Yeah.
right? I don't know if you think that Oscar bait in and of itself is a genre. I kind of see it as a
I
genre.
think it is.
Like that whole film is also just hollow, right? I'm trying to remember the last one I saw that I walked away and I was like, you could tell it was trying, and not trying with soul, but just
Oscar
trying.
movies?
Yeah, like
The last movie that I feel like tried really hard that I was like, this movie earned it.
I mean the ones that didn't earn it, but you can tell they're trying hard with that golden titty.
Oh, let's take a look because I think I recently did look up Best Picture winners.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, a lot of these movies are just not great.
We could turn this into a game. No bread sauce versus cheeseburger, right? It's
Sure.
yeah.
2021. Coda. I
Didn't
didn't see it. It's about the deaf people. 2022. Nomadland.
Didn't see it. Don't remember it.
It's
Like,
not great.
yeah.
2019. Parasite.
Okay.
I think that one.
Burger too.
I think Burger 100%.
I don't think you need to be super smart to get Parasite. And
No.
that sounds condescending. But like I think Parasite is very accessible.
Yes. But I mean, you could say it's also a little inaccessible to the people who hate reading subtitles.
Yeah.
But also, if you can't watch a movie with subtitles, fuck you.
We are literally challenged.
I think here's our first breadless plate, the Green Book.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's breadless sauce right there.
Breadless sauce.
Did that win? That won.
That won. These are the winners.
Yeah, those won.
I personally think Shape of Water is really good. But
no, breadless.
You didn't like Shape of Water?
Boring.
I could see the argument that it is a little boring.
Yeah,
but I personally enjoy me some Guillermo. I would say breadless sauce or breadless sauce for Moonlight.
I didn't love Moonlight.
Nope.
I didn't love Moonlight.
I didn't care for Spotlight, but
I love Spotlight.
I also am not a big fan of these type of movies. A big one for me, breadless sauce, Birdman.
Yes, Birdman overrated.
I feel like 12 Years a Slave tried too hard. It's not bad, just tried a lot.
Yeah.
Argo, 2012.
Or go fuck yourself. That's what they say.
Man, these movies are all a bummer, dude.
And that's the thing. I mean, how many of those are people lining up to rewatch?
None of these movies I would rewatch except for Parasite, maybe.
You know what I'm saying? People are rewatching Return of the King.
Yeah, 2003.
People are rewatching Forrest Gump, which I don't think won, but was a finalist. I can't remember for sure.
I think so.
Right, but there's
no. I think didn't that beat out Pulp Fiction that year?
Maybe it did, but regardless, you can tell we're not experts.
Yeah.
But regardless, there's a difference between things that actually try versus things that just try for the publicity.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell.
So let's go on to our last thing. You had mentioned a couple movies that are parallels to this.
And not entire parallels, but there were elements enough where I was like, oh, this is happening in both.
Yes.
So Midsummer, this movie, they're both good for her movies. Death by Tableau, meaning in Midsummer, there's a lot of emphasis on the tableau, on the setup and the spectacle of the death. Right. Same with here. Barbarian, more so in the marketing for Barbarian, where it was the woman who was prey for the male character.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Don't worry, darling. I think maybe similar to my Barbarian parallels. I can't remember.
A little bit.
That one might be off the list. Knives Out. You got the outsider in the Den of Elites, and they're all assholes or shitheads. Shitheads. That's what we'll learn about in our next recording. The Hunt, obviously. People mad at people of another social class.
Yes.
And then
You should watch them.
I want to watch them.
It's wild.
Yeah. Willy Wonka, the eccentric artist who has a bit of a god complex and passes judgment on archetypical sinners.
Fair.
Right. No critiquing exploitative practices of artistic industries.
Yep.
Right. Hide and Seek. Who's
the one with Robert De Niro?
No, the one with the girl who gets married to that family, and then they play hide and seek. And
I
think it's called hide and seek, isn't it?
No, it's not hide and seek. That's the game they play is Ready or Not.
Ready or Not.
A fantastic movie.
Yeah. Outsider gains insight into a predatory cult of elites, right?
Yeah.
Get Out. Outsider gains insight or into a predatory cult of elites.
The other way, right?
Yeah.
This is like the Democrat side of the of the elites, right?
So and it's interesting because I think this movie does that better than some of these other things on this list do it better than this movie. But I think that's what made me like this movie more is that I could make clear comparisons of movies who did what it was trying to do better than this one did. But you could still tell that it was made with a lot of love.
A lot of care, right? It's kind of like when we talked about
fun, right? That you're like, fuck it.
Like, I mean, it's kind of like when we talked about Smile, right? Like, it's a very derivative movie where you can see like the influences of other movies, but it's still, you can tell that people who made it like had a lot of fun making the movie and they wanted to make it.
And Smile's still been rocking top 10 of the charts.
It was just finally kicked out of the top 10.
Which is crazy.
2 months?
Which is absolutely crazy. It did way better than it had any business doing.
Absolutely.
And I think
But it's because people liked it. People had fun watching it and going back and recommending it to others.
And this is a significantly better version of that. Yeah. In the sense that I mentioned my one little flaw with my character arc, but I think it's so minor on my book that there's not really anything fundamentally bad about this movie. This is a beautiful form.
I think anything that I would say negative about this movie would be a nitpick.
Yeah.
And
I think it never rises to transcendent for me. That's a stupid word, but I mean,
Donald, the chef is gonna put you on a table with.
Chef's gonna turn me into no bread sauce.
He's gonna turn you into a s'more.
It it never does something so genius from like, oh man, this was a beautiful mind, right? It's not Glass Onion for me. I think Glass Onion.
You like Glass Onion more?
I like Glass Onion more, right? Um, but at the same point, this movie also that was kind of baked into its presence, right? I keep on hitting on this metaphor, but it's a cheeseburger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
it's not a steak, right?
It's not a steak.
It's not a steak.
But it's still
a damn good cheeseburger.
A goddamn good cheeseburger.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Because that is a damn good cheeseburger.
Yeah.
And
that's what it was.
That's what it, and that's all. That's it. That's what it has to be.
Exactly.
To be successful is what it has to be. I think that is a good place to stop.
Yeah, I agree.
If you've listened this far in, I'm assuming you've watched the movie.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched the movie, go see the movie.
Go see the movie, because I know we rambled a lot in this one, because there's a lot to talk about.
This movie sparks a lot of conversation.
There's a lot of things that we haven't talked about in the movie that people have, touched on. I know there's like different themes that people want to connect, and
I'll just leave one hanging out in the air for all the listeners on this day, on Kanye West Day.
Kanye West Day.
This movie is kind of a Republican movie, and I won't comment anymore. I'll leave that in the air.
Tell your full quote though.
Tell my full quote.
What was the quote that you walked out of the theater saying?
If Republicans could read, they might really like this.
100%. And on that note, we will be back soon with another movie review. Yeah. This is the Cine-Scoots Podcast. He is Thano.
He's Javier.
And we'll be back next time. Bye.
Bye.